What's going on? This is Cody, and you are tuned to B-Boy 45, broadcasting from the Seacrest Studios here at Children's Hospital, Colorado. And we have another special episode of the latest news to keep you in the groove with Maya today. Maya, who's online with us today?
Adam Pascal.
Adam, how are you?
Hi, everybody. I'm great. I hope you all are as well. Nice to see you.
Well, we are so excited to be here and to have you with us here today. Maya, take it away.
Okay, so first of all, I'm so excited to be talking to you right now.
Likewise.
And so my first question for you is, who or what inspired you to start acting?
That's a good question. I kind of actually fell into it. I didn't grow up wanting to be an actor. I grew up playing in rock bands. And so I grew up in New York City and on Long Island. And from starting at about the age of 11 or 12, I discovered that I could sing and that I loved to sing. And that I loved rock music and rock bands. And so I formed one with a bunch of friends of mine of the same age. And I pretty much played in rock bands as a rock singer all of my youth, all through high school, all through college. And I without ever having any aspirations of becoming an actor. And so it wasn't until the mid-90s, it was 1995, when I got a call about this off-Broadway musical called Rent that was being mounted at the New York Theater Workshop in New York City. And I got this call from a friend of mine named Idina Menzel, who you may or may not know of. And she and I grew up together on Long Island. And I had known her since third grade. She grew up down the block from me. And so she had already been cast in the show and called me up and said, I'm doing this off-Broadway musical and they're having trouble casting this particular role. He's a rock singer in a rock band. And they have opened up the casting to anyone who wants to audition without necessarily having had any prior experience, doing theater. And did I want to try out? And it just, I had actually just coincidentally just left this band that I'd been playing with for all of these years. And it seemed like something interesting to do, something I had never tried before. And, without having any thought of actually getting the part and what that would mean, I went in with my guitar and sang a song. And so that's how I became an actor. I kind of, in a way, fell into it. And then once I started doing it, it seemed like the most natural fit of anything I had done up until that point.
Oh, cool. So you played Roger Davis in Rent in the Broadway musical, the movie, and then the Broadway tour.
London as well.
Oh,
in London as well. I did it. I opened the show in London in the West End as well.
Oh, cool. And I never saw the play, but I'm obsessed with the music and I love the movie.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Could you relate to Roger in any way?
Very much. I mean, I think part of the reason why I was so successful in the part, having not had any prior acting experience, is because, I guess I had some decent natural instincts as an actor, but also because of the character and myself were so similar in our circumstances. I mean, luckily, thank goodness for me, I was not HIV positive as the character is, but he was a struggling rock singer in a rock band whose main goal and desire in life was to create something that would last beyond his lifetime. So to write a song that people would remember, or to create something artistic that people would remember, and I could and have always been able to relate to that. And so, and also living in New York City, we were, I was the same age pretty much as the character. So there were a lot of similarities. And so that being said, I didn't have to dig too deep into myself to portray this character. He was very much already there, and so I just kind of had to go out on stage and allow the material to come through me, to sing the songs and just be present in the moment during the scenes. And, so it didn't require too much thought, which is the best kind of role that doesn't require too much thought. And so yes, I definitely connected to the character, on many different levels.
Oh, cool. I actually have this Broadway bracelet, and Rent is on there.
Oh, so, great. Good for you. Yes, of course it should.
So do you have a favorite song from Rent?
My favorite song probably is, let's see, I have a couple. The I'll Cover You reprise, which is the song that Colin sings at Angel's funeral. I have always thought that was the most beautifully written song in the show and the most poignant. I also love the song What You Own. I love the song, but I also loved the moment in the show, because it comes at a moment in the show, towards the end of the show, where as characters, we've all gone through all of this heart-wrenching ordeals, and it almost shatters the tension of all of that pain that these characters are going through, and it also, from an actor's perspective, being in the show and performing in the show, it was like the last, we were all really tired by that point in the show. It's already been about 2.5 hours by that point in the show. And it was like a really necessary and needed jolt of energy and excitement for us personally as performers to sort of get us through to the end of the show. So I always knew that once we got to that song, it was almost like I could just take a deep breath and exhale and go, okay, it's almost over. It's almost over.
Cool. My sister and I were actually listening to that song last night, and I just we were listening to it, and when you guys sang at the end of the millennium, I was like, okay, but what is the end of a millennium? And so my sister and I were talking about that, and she was like, I think it's 1999 to 2000. I was like, that's the end of a century. And so then she looked it up this morning, and I was like, okay, fine, you were right.
Yeah. Yeah. Because Jonathan wrote the show in the 90s. And so, that was, looking forward to the year 2000, that was the future at that point, and was indeed the end of the millennium.
Yeah. Yeah. So we had a little argument about that last night. So you've been in so many different plays and movies. Have you had a favorite project or character you've played?
They all tend to be your favorite when you're actually doing them, in the moment. But I can certainly look back on certain roles that I've played and how they changed me personally. And I would say having the opportunity to play the MC in Cabaret, that was a role that changed me on a personal and professional level in various profound ways. And so I would definitely say that doing that part really solidified my direction going down the path of continuing to be an actor. Because even though I'd already done Rent and I had already done Aida at that point, I was still very much determined, as the character Roger was, to get a record deal and to still be in a rock band, to still do that kind of thing, to still have that kind of life. And it wasn't until I did Cabaret did my perspective on all of that change. And did I realize that, no, this is actually what I should be doing. I'm better at this that I am at that. And this is actually more fulfilling. And this has a better future. And this is more exciting. Like it was a very pivotal moment for me in my life and in my career. So if there was any one role, I would have to point to that one and say, yeah, that was it.
Oh, cool. So do you have a, oh, sorry. Sorry, I just lost my spot.
Not a problem.
So you've been in so many, okay, sorry. Now I can't remember if I asked this question. I'm like,
ask again. Ask again. I'll tell you if you've asked it already.
Okay.
Ask it again.
Thank you. So what is your favorite part of live theater?
You have not asked that.
Okay.
It's definitely it's a couple of things. Having the opportunity to tell a story from beginning to end every night is very gratifying. When you do television or you do film, you don't have that opportunity to tell a story in that way. You tell a story, but you tell it in a very fragmented way. And then the whole thing is put together by an editor at the end, in which it becomes a complete story. But as the performer, you don't get to tell the story in that way. Sometimes the first day of filming on a movie, you'll shoot the last scene. You know what I mean? Like it's completely disjointed. So you don't have that opportunity to go through a character arc, which is very important, I think, as an actor, to be able to give a good performance, and to experience what that character experiences in real time. Also, the energy that you get from a live audience is it's undeniable, and what really solidified that for me, not that I didn't always know that, because I've been in front of live audiences for most of my life at this point. But I did a concert during this COVID lockdown. I did a concert of my own stuff on a stage with lights and sound and the whole thing, but no audience. It was being filmed and then live and then streamed, and it was like the most bizarre experience. It was very it was unnerving, and it was unfulfilling to not have an audience there. Like I can perform in my room for a camera and have a sense of fulfillment on a certain level. But to be on a stage with the lights, but with no audience was very, very, very jarring and unfulfilling. And I don't hope to do that again. So I do really love the energy and the interaction and the response that you get from a live audience in the moment, especially when you're doing comedy. There's no substitute for getting the reaction of an audience when you are performing in a comedy, hopefully a funny comedy. So yeah, I mean, there's really nothing like it, having experienced other forms of performing, it's definitely by far my favorite.
Oh, cool. Do you have a favorite Broadway show?
I actually don't. I actually don't have a favorite show. Like, I don't have a favorite show that like I have any desire to like go back and see over and over again. I have lots of shows that I've really enjoyed, but when it comes to musicals, I go back to movies. You know what I mean? Like, I go back to Hair. Like, Hair is by far my all-time favorite musical movie. And I can go back and watch that over and over and over again. And if you haven't seen it, I recommend it to you and all of your fans watching. Go watch it. It's amazing. So like that's my go-to, or the Rocky Horror Picture Show, or Grease. You know what I mean? I love Grease. Like, I love musical films, and I would much prefer to go back and watch those. But there's nothing that like on stage that I've seen that I've ever said, oh my God, I got to go back and see this again.
Huh. Um, you've released multiple albums and singles. What is your songwriting process like?
Well, it changes, you know what I mean? It has evolved over the years. I would say that 90% of the time, the music comes first. The music and the melody comes first. And then I try and come up with lyrics that fit into these melody ideas that I've come up with and that fit with the chord structures that I've written. I do and have written with other people a lot, which I really enjoy. I love to collaborate. And I love to take other people's lyrics and put them to my melodies. That's always a lot of fun for me. That's how Elton John works. Elton John doesn't write any of his lyrics. Elton John writes his music. Actually, no, this is how Elton John works. Elton John gets his lyrics from his lyricist named Bernie Taupin. And so Bernie will send Elton basically what is poetry, right? And so Elton will get the lyrics, get the poetry, read them, sit down at the piano, and write the song in 20 minutes.
Oh wow!
Like that's literally how he works. And if he doesn't write it in 20 minutes, he scraps it, and he's done.
Oh, wow!
Yeah, like he's like a genius in that way. Like it comes to him. Like like that. His inspiration is looking at the lyrics, and then it all comes to him.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So, do you plan on releasing any new music?
I have some musical projects that I'm working on, which consist of original music that I'm writing, but not sort of just pop songs or just a record of original material. I have a concept album based on a movie that I'm working on, and that's really it in terms of original material that I've been working on. I've been doing a lot of recording in my house of like remakes of songs. So I have a song up on SoundCloud right now, which is a remake of Heaven on Their Minds from Jesus Christ Superstar. And so that's something that I've done while I've been trapped in the house during COVID. And I'm working on some more of those that I'm going to be putting out. For me, that's very fulfilling. And that satisfies right now my creative desires. But I gave up kind of just writing original music for its own sake quite a while ago. Once culture changed in the way, and you're too young to remember this, but you used to have to pay for music. And you used to have to buy music and buy records. And once that changed, and once digital files and digital music became the thing, and selling music as a way to make a living sort of ceased to exist, I kind of stopped doing it. For the biggest reason in that I never really made any money doing that anyway. So my aspirations of having that be a source of income really disappeared. So I kind of lost the creative desire to do that. I think that if I have things that I want to say musically, I will go back to that and do that. But I haven't had the desire to do that in a number of years.
So have you discovered any new hobbies or talents during quarantine?
I wish. Well, you know what? I've started taking Japanese. I've started to try and learn Japanese because I love Japan and I love the Japanese culture, and I wanted to try and learn how to speak Japanese. So I've been doing that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
If you could have any song playing to announce your entrance into a room, what song would it be?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. Wow. God, you're really catching me off guard with that one because I have so many songs that are like swirling around in my head right now. God. I want to say, you're not going to have any idea who this is, but I want to say a song by Ronnie James Dio, who is one of my idols growing up, and he's like probably the number one or number two guy that I tried to sing like. I still try and sing like, but because of his influence on me and my singing, I would have to say that I can't pick one particular song, but I think it would be a Ronnie James Dio song.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So do you have any upcoming projects?
Yeah. So just like I said, I'm actually doing a workshop. I did one in New York City before COVID lockdown, and we're doing another one in a really interesting way in September, where everyone's doing it at home. And it's a musical of the Scarlet Letter, and it's called Shame. And so I'm going to be doing that in September, which is really exciting. And I'm really interested to see how this ends up working out with, again, everybody being in their own physical space, but it should be fun. And again, I'll be releasing more of these cover songs of musical theater songs that I've been recording here in my house during COVID.
Oh, cool. So is there a certain line from a song that's always stuck with you or inspires you?
Oh, God, that's a good question, too. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, again, because I can think of so many. I don't generally get inspired by one line per se, but I do love, certain Bono from U2 is one of my favorite lyricists because he's such an amazing poet. So I will always hear certain lines. Here's a good one. And this is a line from a Bono line. Every artist is a poet. Every poet is a thief. All steal their inspiration, then sing about their grief.
Oh, I like that. So what is your biggest pet peeve?
COVID.
Oh, yeah.
I want it to go away.
Yeah. So what's the most useless piece of trivia that you know?
Useless piece of trivia. I actually know a lot of trivia. I'm a very good Trivial Pursuit player and a very good Jeopardy player. And quite frankly, all trivia is useless unless you're playing Jeopardy or Trivial Pursuit. It's all useless. Most useless piece of trivia. Good question. Let me think. You know what? You're stumping me on that one. As I tell you how good I am at trivia, I can't even think of one. God. Yeah, you know what? You got me. I can't think of one. I can't think of one off the top of my head. I'm sorry.
I'm happy one of my questions stumps me. Yes.
You know what? As soon as we hang up, I'm going to think of one and I'll text it to you or I'll email it to you.
Okay. So if somebody narrated your life, who would you want the narrator to be?
I would say a gentleman by the name of Christopher Hitchens. Christopher Hitchens was a philosopher and an intellectual and a debater and an author and somebody that was a hero of mine. And he had a brilliant speaking voice. So I would have to say a gentleman by the name of Christopher Hitchens.
Oh, cool. So my last question for you is, who do you consider to be a real life superhero and why?
That's a good question. A real life superhero. I mean, look, frontline workers during this COVID. I mean, people who risk their own well-being for the sake of others' well-being. Those are real superheroes. There's no other way to look at it. Anyone who puts themselves out there again and risks their own safety and their own health for the benefit of others is a superhero.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was my last question. So thank you so much for calling in.
Of course.
It was fun talking to you.
Likewise. Thank you for having me. I so appreciate it, Maya. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, I was like so starstruck when you actually responded to my message, because
you're so sweet.
I was like, there's no way I'm gonna get a response, and then you responded, and I stopped breathing for a minute.
You're very sweet. Thank you. It's been absolutely my pleasure. Anytime.
Well, thank you so much. I know the kids enjoyed hearing all about all of your experiences, and if you're ever here in Colorado, swing on by Children's Hospital Colorado. I'm sure kids would love to meet you.
I love Colorado, and you can be certain that when I'm there, I will do that.
Excellent.
Yep.
You have a good day, and thanks for spending so much time with us and being part of Maya's show, The Latest News to Keep You in the Groove.
Absolutely. Thanks, ladies.
Bye-bye.
Bye.